As Mike mentioned, I came to the financial services field via a very different route than I imagine most of you did. My training is as a counseling psychologist. But I made a discovery about 3 years into my doctoral program, and this discovery absolutely changed my life. I discovered that, unlike my colleagues in the counseling psych program, I really didn't enjoy working with people who had emotional problems. Exactly. So, I'm 3 years into this program, and I say to myself, well, what am I going to do? And then it hit me, what I really need to do, because I wanted to be a psychologist, I wanted to help people. I thought to myself, I can still be a psychologist, I just have to find a population of people to work with who aren't so emotional. And this was 1997, and all my friends were working on Wall Street. I was always the outlier, the social sciences guy. And then it hit me. I'll work with stock market investors. They're not so emotional. I think you can appreciate the irony of my career decisions, right? The fact of the matter is there is nothing more emotional and less rational than the relationship people have with their money. And I'll tell you what, over the 10 years I've been doing this work, and this really got driven home once again back in 08, 09, I've come to another discovery, and it's this. You, me, in a lot of ways, we're in the same business. And if you take a look at the percentage of your time and effort that gets spent actually managing your client's money versus the percentage of that time and effort that's spent managing your clients, their emotions, their expectations, the relationship you have with them, you may be inclined to agree with me that there's an element of counseling that underlies financial advising. So what we're going to talk about going forward is a subject called behavioral finance. Show of hands here. Raise your hand if you would say you have a working knowledge of what behavioral finance is. Okay? A number of you, but I didn't see most of the hands go up. Essentially, it's a fancier way of saying investing psychology. That's what behavioral finance is. And it really involves dealing with client emotions so that you can increase your impact on them. What I'd like for you to do before we get rolling with this presentation is to think for a moment of a particular client or two who you find challenging. Maybe this client is more emotional than other clients. Maybe they're more immune to the good counsel you bring to them. Maybe a bit more rigid, set in their ways. Go ahead, think about that person, because we can use that as a touchstone going forward for this presentation. The name of the presentation is called Addressing Clients' Behavioral Biases, and we're going to start off with a bit of an exercise. It is a variation of a cognitive test designed to test brain functioning, among other things, called the Stroop test. And it's really fairly straightforward. All I want you to do is to name the color of the letters that you see on the following slides. Name the color that you see of those letters, and then verbalize that color as quickly and as loudly as you can. And we're looking for audience participation here. We got a nice big room, so really react with a nice loud answer as soon as you feel that you can. Ready? Go. Good. A little louder, a little faster. Good. Nice. Perfect. Louder, faster. Good. Perfect. Good. Perfect. Nice. Good. Why was that exercise on cognitive psychology relevant? Well, it's relevant for a number of reasons. One is that it shows just how much we rely on our habits, our mental shortcuts when it comes to analyzing data and information. Our clients do this all the time. Our clients always think they're acting rationally. It's very rare that they're ever acting rationally, let alone perfectly rationally. There's interference that seeps into their analytical process without their awareness, the same way that emotions sink in. So if you imagine the part of you that reads the letters as being the rational areas of your brain, and the part that experiences the colors as being the emotional, you can see just how much these things get mashed up. The other thing is this. I want you to to really pay attention to just how much things improved. I mean, when we started out, you were thrown a curveball, and the first answer was off considerably. But each answer after that got faster, and it got more accurate. What we did in this room right here together is something called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is, for lack of a better expression, rewiring your brain, creating a new path. And that's why I like this slide a lot. Because the way that we make a new path in our brains is the same way that we would make a new path just out in life, in the wilderness. Now, if you were used to going down the right side of this path, there'd be a well-worn way to get from point A to point B. If you wanted to start a new path, get a new habit, a new perspective, how would you do it? Well, you'd veer off to the left. And at first, there'd be no path at all. There'd be grass. And you'd walk along that grass, and the more you walked it, the more common it became. Well, it would get worn away, and the dirt would start to appear. The brush would disappear. Pretty soon, you've got a connection. You've got a new habit. Now, of course, we know what happens when we stop walking our paths. They grow over. The wilderness returns. The path disappears. Same is true with our practices and our brains and our clients. And so, in a way, these pathways represent a leitmotif for this presentation, because what we're talking about is giving you some new paths, some new skills for using in your practice. We're talking about forging new habits, and we're talking about making sure clients are going down the right road, because their biases are going to try and divert them. They're going to try and divert them into little cul-de-sacs and little dead ends, and you name it. And part of the most challenging thing that people do as advisors is helping them overcome those challenges. Now, to that end, there is, I tell you, people talk about fear and they talk about greed, and they talk about these two emotions for investing as if it's peanut butter and jelly or thunder and lightning. They just go together. Let me tell you something. Fear crushes greed. It's not a fair fight. All right? In fact, you can even think of it as a formula. F equals 2.5 G. And that's because the pain of losses and its emotional imprint is 2.5 times greater than the subsequent joy, the experience you get from doing well. The main culprit is an area of the brain called the amygdala. The amygdala, in a very real sense, leaves an imprint of neural activity that reduces risk-taking. Okay? This is why fear is so powerful. And in order to get people past this, the amygdala must be calmed. It must be placated, because as long as the amygdala is making the decisions and driving the neural processes, clients can't move forward, and they can't make good decisions for themselves. So when we talk about these clients, and we talk about addressing their biases, for my money, what we're talking about is helping them overcome the emotional pitfalls. The greatest one is fear. Now, that is not merely the world's largest Band-Aid. That is another metaphor for what has happened to our clients. For many of our clients, going back to 2008, 2009, what they suffered, quite literally, was a cut. They suffered a cut in their net worth. And the way that we deal with a cut to our finances is the same way that we deal with a cut physically. I mean, the first thing you want to do if you get cut, well, actually, the first thing you probably do is if you're me, is you yell out a swear word. But the second thing you want to do after a cut, stop the bleeding. Get some pressure on it, stop the bleeding. And that's what a lot of clients did. They called it a flight to safety. It became too much. They had to stop the bleeding. The second thing, and here's the thing that I want you to really take with you. After you've done that, the major task is to prevent an infection. An infection takes a cut from being something that's manageable to something that becomes systemic, something that paralyzes or poisons or even kills people. All right? Think of it this way. People who've suffered a cut, the emotions, the infections they suffered are emotional infections. It may have poisoned their relationship with their money so that they can't re-engage and make good decisions. Perhaps it's caused them to seek to make that money back too quickly, seek redemption. Perhaps it's gotten in the way of the relationship with you. Anybody who has suffered cuts, we need those cuts to heal, and we're going to talk about ways that you help clients overcome that. I'll tell you, I'm using the metaphor of getting cut. These things are, these losses, these emotional impacts that the market leaves on our clients, they're little pebbles. They're little pebbles in a client's shoe, and they need to be cleared out if they're ever going to walk the road they need to walk going forward. Here is a slide with a chart. I got this chart off of a website, and this website must have been administered by a particularly nasty individual, because the headline over it was, "Funniest chart ever." Folks, I don't think there's anything funny about this. I think this is sad. What we see here is the black line going up at almost a 45-degree angle. That was the return of the S&P 500 in the last half of last year. If you look at the red lines that are increasing in length as they move to the left, those represent outflows from North American equities. So those are two ships passing in the night. It is a recipe for frustration, and it is every bit as predictable as the sun rising when it comes to what our clients do, right? So where are our clients mentally right now? I think a lot of them have been put in an awkward position, and they're wondering, did I miss the bus? Did I miss my chance?